Sa, that transcendence. Eva, certainly. Jiva, lokasya, of the conditioned living beings. Maya mohita, captivated by the illusory energy. Chaitasa, by the heart. Vidatse, execute. Svena, by your own. Virena, influence. Shreya, ultimate good. Dharma adi, four principles of liberation. Lakshanam, characterized by. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. And yet, though you are beyond the purview of the material energy, you execute the four principles of liberation, characterized by religion, and so on, for the ultimate good of the conditioned souls. Please repeat. And yet, let's try again. And yet, you are beyond the purview of the material energy. You execute the four principles of religion, liberation, characterized by religion, and so on for the ultimate good of the conditioned souls. Purport. The personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, out of His causeless mercy, descends on the manifested world without being influenced by the material modes of nature. He is eternally beyond the material manifestation. He descends out of His causeless mercy only to reclaim the fallen souls who are captivated by the illusory energy. They're attacked by the material energy, and they want to enjoy her under the false pretext, although in essence the living entity is unable to enjoy. One is eternally the servitor of the Lord, and when he forgets this position, he thinks of enjoying the material world, but actually he is an illusion. The Lord descends to eradicate this false sense of enjoyment, thus reclaim conditioned souls back to Godhead. That is the all-merciful nature of the Lord for the fallen souls. Seva jiva lokasya maya mohita chaitasa vidatse svena viryena shreyo dharmadi lakshanam. And yet, although you are beyond the purview of the material energy, you execute the four principles of liberation, characterized by religion, and so on for the ultimate good of the conditioned soul. Om Agyanativarandas Namo Vishnu Praya Krishna Prasthaya Bhute Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswatam Deve Gauravani Bacharane Nirvishesha Srinivadi Paskatya De Satarane. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Tasmada sakta sadatam karyam karma samachara asato yacharam karma param apnoti purusham. Therefore, without being attached to the fruits of activities, one should act as a matter of duty. By working without attachment, one attains the supreme. And then Krishna mentions about how Janaka attained that perfection by acting without attachment, dutifully. And yad yadacharya shrestas tat tat eve taro janahat siyat pramanam kurute lokastada navartate. Whatever action the great man does, common men follow in his footsteps. Whatever standard he sets by exemplary acts, all the world pursues. So Krishna is the leader, supposed to be the leader, and therefore he wants to act in such a way as exemplary. If he acted as a liberated soul in the material world, beyond the material modes of nature, then people would also follow that. Because Krishna did it, so they'll do it too. Sometimes Krishna acts as the supreme. He dances with 16,108 gopis. Sometimes he lifts Govardhan Hill with his little pinky, which cannot be imitated by conditioned souls, especially in this world. But generally speaking, he acts as a dutiful householder when he marries 16,108 queens. He follows the principles of household life perfectly. And then Krishna says, Ame partarasi kartavyam trishu lokeshu kinchana nanavaptam avaptavyam varta evach karmani. That there's no work for me, there's no work prescribed for me within the three planetary systems. Nor am I want of anything, nor have I need to obtain anything, yet I am engaged in prescribed duties. So generally people, they execute the Varna and Ashram system because they want something. The Shudras, they get their necessities fulfilled by doing dutiful activity. The Vaishyas get a comfortable life. The Kshatriyas get to control others. And the Brahmanas get more absorbed in spiritual knowledge by disseminating it. So they have some gross or subtle desire. Chatur vijaya vijanti mam, chanaskriti arjuna, artha jignasya artharati gyani cha paratarshava. 4 kinds of people approach Krishna. So these are the 4 people in the Varnashram system. They execute devotional service either to get free from distress, or to have a comfortable life, or to satisfy their inquisitiveness, or to get free or liberated from material existence. So they have some desire, they want some reciprocation from Krishna. On the material platform. But Krishna, when he comes, he acts as a dutiful Kshatriya, but he's not attached to any result, because he's the one who creates all the results anyhow. And he takes up a prescribed duty, because everyone has to have some prescribed duty. And in the spiritual world also, Krishna is a Kshatriya, at least in Dwarka. And the queens there are queens. They have their prescribed duties as queens. Krishna has his prescribed duty as a king in Dwarka. So what to speak of this world? But there in the spiritual world, everything is done out of love. There's no desire for any kind of other reciprocation. There's no progression. Krishna is not expanding factories in the spiritual world. He's not expanding his kingdom in the spiritual world. Nor in Goloka Vrindavan is he setting up milk factories with all the cows, and bottling the milk and selling it. It's told everything is done without any material desire, simply out of love. Because Krishna is complete in himself, unlimitedly complete, and always getting more complete by his loving exchanges. Progress in the spiritual world is progress in loving feelings. Here, progress means collecting things. But generally speaking, people collect things, even in household life, in order to develop loving feelings. But there we can see that there's no need to collect anything to develop loving feelings, except to expand the loving feelings. So here everything is indirect, and loving feelings are all based upon feeling sense gratification, which is not exactly loving. In other words, the whole endeavor to expand our ato griya kshetra sutapta vitera janasya moho yam aham ameti pumsa sriya maituna bhavanitam duram mritya granti mahu ato griya kshetra sutapta vitera janasya moho yam aham ameti. So here we're dressed as women, we're dressed as men. Pumsa, Striya, Maituni, Bhavam, Etam. And happiness means in the material world, generally sex life, as a culmination. So, Taror Gridaya Grantim Ahu. But this combination of men and women creates a knot within the heart, an attachment. It's not exactly love, it's attachment. Ultimately, we find out in the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the second canto, that the real attachment is that we want soldiers to protect our body, to make it comfortable and protect it. Deha patya kala tradishu atma saneshva satsupi. Sanyeshu means soldiers, asatsupi, but they're fallible. They can't protect themselves, what to speak of protecting us. Tesham pramato nidanam. Unfortunately, people are pramata. They're crazy. Therefore, although they can see that nidanam, everyone is destroyed in this world, but they try to forget that and go on as if everything will be okay eternally. Pachan api napashati. Therefore, even the most elementary, obvious things they cannot see because their intelligence has been taken away by the illusory energy. But Krishna, he doesn't have any material concept of life. He has a spiritual body. He's not afraid of leaving his body. His body is eternal. Therefore, he has no reason to make any kind of arrangement in the material world, because any arrangement in the material world will not increase his bliss nor take away from it. Therefore, he doesn't want anything, nor does he have any need to obtain anything. But he engages in prescribed duties specifically, as mentioned here, to set the example for others. Yadi naham nivartayam jatun karmanyatendritaha mama vartmanu vartante manushapartha sarvashaha. If I ever fail to engage in carefully performing prescribed duties, O son of Pritha, certainly all men would follow my path. That's second time. First time Krishna mentions Mama Vartmanu Vartante. What's the next time where Mama Vartmanu Vartante? When is that mentioned? Everyone. Ye tamam prapadante tam sataiva bhajamyaham Mama Vartmanu Vartante manusha partha sarvachaha. What does that mean? Ye tamam prapadante. Yeah. Is everyone's following a path, so whatever Krishna is, if he does something, people will follow that path. At least those who know about Krishna. And utsadeya ime loka na karyam karma chedaham sankarasya chitarkartasyam upahanya ima praja. If I did not perform prescribed duties, all these worlds would be put to ruination, and I'd be the cause of creating unwanted population, and thereby destroy the peace of all living beings. So if Krishna didn't do his duty, no one else would probably do it. And therefore, without doing prescribed duty, sacrifice for Vishnu, if Krishna didn't do his prescribed duty, he'd still get prasadam. But if we didn't do our prescribed duty, the rain wouldn't come, and therefore the grains wouldn't be there, and eventually we'd starve. So Krishna is not doing his prescribed duty in order to get some result like rains and food. He's going to get that anyhow. But he does it to show us an example so that we're encouraged to do it, and therefore we get the necessities of life. Sakta karmanya vidvamsa, tata korvanti bharata, korvan koryad vishvam tatak saktas chikir shaloka sangraha. As the ignorant men perform their duties with attachment to the results, the learned may also similarly act with that attachment for the sake of leading people on the right path. So if we're conditioned, we should do our duty so we can gradually make advances in spiritual life and come and get what we need, the necessities of life. But if we're liberated, we should still do our duty. So others would follow our path. Because if someone is liberated and exalted, then people will do what he does also. Nabudhi Bedam Janayat Agyanam Karma Sangaham Joshyat Savakarmani Vidvam Yukta Samachara. So as not to distract the minds of ignorant men attached to free results, prescribed duties, learned men should not induce them to stop work. Rather, by working in the spirit of devotion, he should engage in all sorts of activities for the grounded development of Krishna consciousness. So it's not like a liberated person like Shukadeva Goswami necessarily goes to everyone and says, give up your work and just meditate on Krishna. Because people can't do that. What they can do is follow their prescribed duty in order to get the results, and therefore gradually make some advancement. So a person who's elevated in Krishna consciousness, he doesn't tell people stop work and start just chant Hare Krishna. Tells them to keep on doing what you're doing, and that way gradually make progress until the platform where you can meditate and trance on Krishna, and you won't have to worry about the results of your work. Therefore, with George Harrison, popular Beatle at that time, people in India know about the Beatles. A lot of Beatles in India, I noticed. There's a lot of Beatles in India. So, Prabhupada told George Harrison, you should go on with your music, making music, and, try to do devotional service to the best he can. So he had him, when George Harrison did some service, put out some albums about Krishna. He gave the money for the original, for printing of the Krishna book. He donated some money for the first printing of the Krishna book. He donated the Bhaktivedanta Manor. So in that way he did service. He never got initiated. He never really became a pure devotee. He became a little deviated, but still he did service, and Prabhupada understood that that's the best thing for him to do. Similarly, there was a famous ballet dancer who Prabhupada just told him to keep on dancing, and at the same time try to become a devotee. He didn't tell them to stop their work, because they wouldn't be able to do it. Prabhupada gives the example of C.R. Das, famous barrister in India, who was making 50,000 rupees a month at the time of Gandhi. So 50,000 rupees at the time of Gandhi was a huge amount of money in the 1920s. So when Gandhi started Swaraj and said that you should give up your participation in the British legal system, so C.R. Das had to retire, and instead of getting 50,000 rupees a month earning, now he's only getting like 200 rupees a month. So his standard of living went greatly down. And although he took part in the Gandhi's movement, but he became morose and left his body within a very short period of time. So to give up one's prescribed duty all of a sudden will not be very advantageous. Only when one comes to the platform of the six Goswamis, that Tyaktva Tornam Ashesha Mandalapati Shrenim Sadatu Chavat Bhutva Dina Guneshako Karunaya Gopina Kanta Shito Gopi Bhava Rasamrita Dilahari Kolola Mogno Muhur. The six Goswamis, they were able to give up fabulous wealth. Raghunath Goswami, his father was a multimillionaire, and his uncle was a multimillionaire. The Goswamis, Sanatana Goswami and Rupa Goswami, were very important ministers in Bengal. They were fabulously wealthy also. Rupa Goswami had a boatload full of coins. Gold coins, not just ordinary coins, but gold coins. Yet they were able to give it up and went to Vrindavan, and they lived like ordinary mendicants begging from door to door. But they were so much enriched with the gopis' love for Krishna that they enjoyed transcendental pleasure at every moment. Similarly, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was at Jagannath Puri, he was in the role of Srimati Radharani, taking the role of taking the role of Srimati Radharani. So those who are in the Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya should also meditate on Krishna, chant his holy name, discuss his transcendental pastimes. The spiritual masters should enrich the devotees to the highest devotional perfection. Feeling constant separation while engaged in chanting Hare Krishna is the perfection of Krishna consciousness. So they were able to give up their fabulous positions, because they were absorbed in a higher taste and the gopis' love for Krishna. So until we come to that platform, we have to do some duty. Otherwise, if we stop working, then we just fall into the mode of ignorance. Prakriti kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvashaha ahankara vimudatma kartaham iti manyate. The spirit soul, bewildered by the influence of false ego, thinks himself the doer of activities, which in actuality carried out by the three modes of material nature. Tatavitu mahabaho guna karmi bhagayo guna guneshu vartante iti matva nesajate. One who is in knowledge of the absolute truth, Almighty Arm, does not engage himself in the senses and sense gratification, knowing well the differences between work and devotion and work for true results. So the work may seem the same, but a self-realized person, he does his activities just to please Krishna in devotional service, while others are doing it for their sense gratification. Prakriti guna samuda, sajante guna karmasu, tana kritsna vido mandan, kritsna vina vichalya. Bewildered by the modes of material nature, the ignorant fully engage themselves in material activities, become attached, but the wise do not unsettle them, although these duties are inferior due to performance lack of knowledge. Mahi sarvani karmani sanyasya yasta chetasa nirashiranamo budva yudasva vigata dvara. Therefore, Arjuna, surrendering all your works unto me, with full knowledge of me, without desires for profit, with no claims to proprietorship, and free from lethargy, fight. So this is how we should do our service. All the results should be offered to Krishna, and at the same time we should have a full understanding of how Krishna is the proprietor of everything, how he's in our heart directing us, full knowledge of Krishna. In other words, that Krishna is the enjoyer, Krishna is the controller, and ultimately Krishna is our real friend and benefactor. So we don't need profit, and we're not going to become a proprietor of anything, and we're not going to become lazy, indifferent, because we're not getting any benefit. But with full enthusiasm, one can engage in Krishna's service, like Krishna does. Ye me matamidam nityam anutishnati manava shadavanto nasuyanto mujhanti tepi kamabi. Those persons who execute their duties according to my injunctions and who follow the teaching faithfully without envy become free from the bondage of fruitive activities. So we're not engaged in the Varna and Ashram system. We're engaged in devotional service, or at least we're trying to. Still, we should do it dutifully. That's called Vaidhi Bhakti. Instead of dutifully acting as a Shudra, or as a Vaishya, or as a Kshatriya, or as a Brahmana, we act as a devotee dutifully. And then we'll gradually become free from the results of our previous activities. But ye me mutamidam ye tvetaranu visuyanto mujante karma nanutishnati me mutam sarvagyan vibhudam stam vidi nashtana cetasa. For those who out of envy disregard these teachings and do not follow them are to be considered bereft of all knowledge, be fooled and ruined in their endeavors for perfection. So whatever we're trying to perfect, whatever we're doing, we're simply, without doing it, working in that spirit of devotion to Krishna, everything we're doing is just defeat. And how it goes on, just very interesting. And eventually Arjuna asks, well, I know what my duty is, but why don't I do it? Because of lust and anger and greed and illusion. We know we're supposed to do something, but we don't do it because we wind up serving lust, namely our senses. And what's the way of getting out of it? Is Tasmat Twamindriyarnya do niyamya bharatarshava papmanam prajihi enam jnana vijnana nashidam. Therefore Arjuna, curb this great evil of sin, lust, by regulating the senses and slay this destroyer of knowledge and self-realization. That the working senses is superior to dull matter, mind is higher than the senses, intelligence is higher than the mind, and he, the soul, is even higher than the intelligence. That's knowing oneself to be transcendental to the material senses, mind, and intelligence. One should control the lower self by the higher, thus by spiritual strength conquer this insatiable enemy known as lust. So we should wake up in the morning and we should not think, today I have a great opportunity to serve my lust. Prashadam, sleeping, whatever else. Shouldn't be a part of our plan today. I have my whole adventure today in serving my senses. No, we should realize, yes, our senses have to be served, but not for the sense of serving the senses, but for the sense of serving Krishna, to utilize his body in his service. And therefore we'll actually eat better, because we'll take it more seriously. We don't think I have unlimited food to eat, although my stomach is only so big, but my desire is unlimited. So therefore we'll actually chew our food and try and taste it, rather than just swallow it, trying to fill our empty stomach. Until it comes out our ears, and then we have to... Therefore Krishna says, but Krishna, when he comes, he doesn't have to worry about these things. He's not doing it for liberation as a matter of duty. He's not engaged in Vaidhi Bhakti. He's simply always in the same state of consciousness, whatever he's doing. Therefore he says, Ye chaiva satika bhava, rajasas tamasas chaye, etan vediti tam, vatak evati tanvidi, natvaham teshu temayi. Ye chaiva satika bhava. The three modes of material nature. Ye chaiva satika bhava, rajasas tamasas chaye. Know that all states of being, whether it be of goodness, passion, or ignorance, are manifested by my energy. I am in one sense everything, but I am independent. I am not under the modes of material nature, for they, on the contrary, are within me. Tribhir gunamahir bhavar evik sarvam vidam jagat mohitam nabichanati mohyam mam Abhyak param avyam. Deluded by the three modes of goodness, passion, ignorance, the whole world does not know me, who am above the modes and inexhaustible. Therefore we should not be foolish, and when we read about Krishna, whether he's driving Arjuna's chariot in the battlefield Kurukshetra, or he's dancing with the gopis, it's the same Krishna, beyond the material energy. Similarly, the pure devotees like Srila Prabhupada are always beyond the material nature. They simply, whatever they're doing is to set the example for us, the standard. And that way we can become liberated ourselves. Janma karma chame divyam evam yoveti tatvataha tyaktvadeham punarjanma naiti mam eti shorjana. We can become, by following their example, we can become liberated because we know their example is perfect. And when we become liberated, we still follow their example so we can help others become liberated too. Then Abhijananti Mamuda Manushim Tanam Ashityam Parambhava Majanantam Mamabhuta Maheshwaram. Unfortunately, the fools, they think when Krishna comes, he acts like an ordinary person. He is an ordinary person. They don't know his transcendental nature and his supreme dominion over all being. Therefore, they don't understand his nature, they don't understand his activities, and therefore they Mogaisha Moka Karmano Moka Jnana Vichetasaha Rakshasim Asrim Jaiva Prakriti Mohinim Shrita. Therefore, their hopes for liberation, their fruitive activities, and their culture of knowledge are all defeated because they never get to the goal of Krishna consciousness. They remain within the material conceptions of life. So I'll stop there. Thank you. Any questions? Yes.
Hare Krishna, because you spoke about persons who are dutiful, we should not disturb them. How to guide someone who is dutifully working for most of, like, for example, they are working for they are transporting food which is not vegetarian.
That's not their duty. Their duty is not to go to hell. But tell them to chant Hare Krishna. It depends who they are, what your relation with them is. But as Krishna said, don't disturb their mind. Tell them, give them some instruction that something positive. So they can engage in Krishna service, and gradually, by getting that taste, they'll understand that this is not a very good activity I'm doing. I mean, they can get some occupation which is not sinful. First, engage in the positive, anukulyasya sankalpa, before we start trying to engage in people of pratikulyasya varjana, and giving up the things which are bad. First, engage them in positive things, so they get a higher taste, and they'll naturally, voluntarily give up the lowest things. Anything else? Hvala, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur